The snow falls heavy over Dresden, Germany. It is February 1945. The city is dying. Not slowly, not quietly, but violently. In fire and smoke and thunder that shakes the earth and splits the sky. The Allied bombers came 3 nights ago. February 13th. Shrove Tuesday. The night before Ash Wednesday. The irony is not lost on anyone. Ash Wednesday came early this year. The entire city turned to ash. Wave after wave of planes. British Lancasters. American B-17s. Thousands of them. The sound was deafening. A roar that never stopped. That filled the ears and the mind and the soul with terror. The bombs fell like rain. Incendiary bombs. Phosphorus. Thermite. High explosives. They fell on the Altstadt. On the Neustadt. On the factories. On the hospitals. On the schools. On the homes. On everything. The city burned. For 2 days and 2 nights it burned. The fires merged into one massive firestorm. A tornado of flame. Temperatures reached 1,000 degrees. Hot enough to melt glass. Hot enough to vaporize metal. Hot enough to turn human bodies to ash in seconds. The firestorm created its own weather. Winds strong enough to rip trees from the ground. Strong enough to pull people off their feet and into the flames. Strong enough to shatter windows blocks away. People tried to escape. They ran to the parks, to the river, to the open spaces. But the fire followed. The fire was everywhere. The river boiled. The parks burned. There was no escape. Thousands died. Tens of thousands. Maybe more. No one knows the exact number. The bodies were too many. Too burned. Too gone. Now the fires are out. 3 days later. What remains is smoke. Thick. Black. Choking. It hangs over the city like a shroud. What remains is rubble. Mountains of it. Buildings collapsed into themselves. Reduced to piles of broken stone and twisted metal. What remains is silence. The terrible silence of a city that has stopped breathing. And the snow. The snow falls. White, clean, gentle, covering the black. Covering the ash. Covering the death. But it cannot hide it. Nothing can hide this dot in what used to be the Altstadt, the old city, the historic heart of Dresden. A woman stands among the ruins. Her name is Margarethe Fischer. She is 34 years old, but looks 50. War does that. Grief does that. Loss does that. She wears a gray wool coat. It used to be her husband's. Too big for her. The sleeves hang past her hands. The hem drags in the snow. It is torn at the shoulder, stained with ash and soot and things she does not want to think about. Her hair is blonde, or it was. Now it is gray with ash, matted, filthy. She has not washed it in days. There is no water, no soap, no time, no reason. Her face is hollow, cheekbones sharp, skin pale, eyes ringed with dark circles. Her lips are cracked, bleeding, from the cold, from dehydration, from screaming. She screamed a lot 3 nights ago. Everyone did. Her hands are bare. No gloves. Her fingers are red, stiff, almost blue. She flexes them. They barely move. But she does not care. She does not feel the cold anymore. She does not feel anything anymore. She stands where her house used to be. Number 17 Prager Strage. A narrow townhouse. 4 stories. White stone. Red tile roof. Flower boxes in the windows. Geraniums in summer. Empty in winter. A blue door. Painted by her husband Carl 2 summers ago. She remembers that day. Hot, bright, Carl with paint on his hands. On his face. Laughing. She remembers. But the house is gone. There is nothing left. No walls. No roof. No floors. No blue door. Just rubble. A pile of broken stone and shattered brick and twisted pipes and splintered wood. She cannot tell where the rooms were, where the kitchen was, where she cooked meals, where the parlor was, where they sat by the fire, where the bedroom was, where she and Carl slept, where they made love, where they whispered in the dark, where they planned their future. All gone, erased, as if it never existed. As if her life never existed. Margarethy's husband is dead. Carl Fischer. He died at Stalingrad. 2 years ago. January 1943. The coldest winter in decades. The Wehrmacht encircled. Cut off. Starving. Freezing. Dying. 300,000 men. Fewer than 6,000 made it out. Carl was not one of them. The letter came in March 1943, 2 months after he died. 2 months of hoping, of waiting, of praying. Then the letter, brief, official, typed, black ink on white paper. Dear Frau Fischer, we regret to inform you that your husband, Oberleutnant Carl Fischer, was killed in action on January 15, 1943, near Stalingrad, in service to the fatherland. He died heroically. His sacrifice will not be forgotten. Heil Hitler. That was it. No details. No body, no grave. Just words on paper. And a ring. His wedding ring. They sent it with the letter. In a small box. Cardboard, plain. The ring was inside, gold, simple, a little scratched, a little worn. Inscribed inside, Margarethy and Carl, 12 June 1932, their wedding date. She held it. She stared at it. She could not believe it, could not accept it. Carl was not dead. He could not be dead. He was strong, smart, careful. He would survive. He had to survive. He promised. He promised he would come home. But he did not come home. He never came home. The ring came instead. She wore it. On a chain around her neck. Next to her own ring. 2 rings. 2 lives, connected, bound forever, or so she thought. Forever ended in Stalingrad. Forever ended in the snow. Forever ended 2 years ago. But Margarethy kept the rings. She wore them every day. They were all she had left of Carl. All she had left of her marriage. Of her life before. Asterisk, then the bombs came. 3 nights ago. Margarethy was not home when the sirens sounded. She was with her children. Anna and Thomas. 6 and 4 years old. They were at the public shelter. The big one on Pragerstraße, 2 blocks from the house. A massive concrete bunker, built to hold 500 people. That night it held 3,000. Maybe more. Everyone crowded in when the sirens wailed. Packed shoulder to shoulder. Body to body. No space to sit. No space to breathe. Just bodies. Just fear. Just waiting. Margarethy held Anna's hand. Held Thomas in her arms. He was crying. Scared. The sirens were so loud. So shrill, like screaming. Anna was trying to be brave. Trying not to cry. But her hand was shaking. Margarethy whispered to them. It is okay. We are safe here. The shelter is strong. Nothing can hurt us here. But she did not believe it. She heard the bombs falling. Felt the ground shake. Felt the walls vibrate. Felt the heat. Even underground. Even in concrete. The heat seeped in. Like an oven. Like hell. The lights went out. Someone screamed. Then everyone screamed. Children wailed. Women prayed. Men shouted. The air grew thick, hot, hard to breathe. People pushed toward the doors, trying to escape, but the doors were sealed, locked from outside, to keep the firestorm out, to keep the people in, to keep them safe, or to keep them trapped. Margarethe did not know which. She held her children. She pressed them against her. She covered their ears. She sang to them, softly, a lullaby. Schlaf, Kindlein, schlaf. Sleep, little child, sleep. She sang even though she could barely breathe, even though she thought they would die, even though she thought this concrete tomb would be their grave. But they did not die. The bombs stopped. The shaking stopped. The heat faded. 2 days passed. 2 days in darkness, in heat, in terror. People died. Old people, sick people, babies, from the heat, from lack of air, from fear. Their bodies were laid in the corner, covered with coats, with dignity, with prayers. Then finally the doors opened. Air rushed in, cold, fresh, beautiful. People poured out, blinking, coughing, stumbling, into a world that no longer existed. Margarethe emerged with her children. She looked around. She could not comprehend what she was seeing. The street was gone. The buildings were gone. Everything was rubble, smoke, ash. The sky was gray. The air smelled of burning, of chemicals, of death. Bodies lay everywhere. In the street, on the rubble, charred, twisted, unrecognizable. Anna saw them. She screamed. Margarethe covered her eyes. Too late. Thomas buried his face in Margarethe's coat, crying, shaking. Margarethe walked. She did not know where to go. Just away. Just somewhere else. Just anywhere. She walked toward where her house should be. Toward Prager Strage. Toward number 17. But when she got there was nothing. Just rubble. Just ash. Just emptiness. She stood there, holding her children, staring, not believing, not accepting. Her home, her life, her past, all gone. She wanted to scream, to cry, to collapse. But she could not. She had to be strong. For Anna, for Thomas, for herself. She turned away. She led them through the ruins, through the bodies, through the smoke. She found a church, St. Annenkirch, still standing. Mostly, the roof was gone. The windows were shattered. The walls were cracked. But it had walls. It had floor. It was something. Inside were dozens of people, hundreds, sitting, lying, waiting, surviving. Margarethe found a corner. She sat. She pulled Anna and Thomas close. She gave them the last piece of bread she had, from 2 days ago. Hard, dry, stale, but food. They ate it. They did not complain. They were good children, strong children, like their father. Margarethe's throat tightened. Carl, if only he were here. If only he had survived. If only. But there were no if-onlys. Only reality. Only this. Only now. That night, Margarethe could not sleep. She lay on the cold stone floor. Anna and Thomas curled against her. Asleep, finally, exhausted. She stared up through the broken roof. At the stars. So many stars. More than she ever saw in the city. Because there were no lights now. No electricity. No life. Just darkness. Just stars. Just cold. She thought about Carl. About the day they married. June 12, 1932. 13 years ago. A lifetime ago. They married in this church, St. Annenkirch. It was a beautiful day. Sunny. Warm. The church was full. Friends, family, neighbors. Her father walked her down the aisle. Her mother cried. Happy tears. Carl stood at the altar. Tall, handsome, nervous. He smiled when he saw her. That smile. The smile that made her fall in love. She walked to him, took his hand. The priest spoke. They exchanged vows, for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, till death do us part. They exchanged rings, gold bands, simple, inscribed, Margarethe and Carl. 12 June 1932. Carl slipped the ring on her finger. She slipped hers on his. They kissed. Everyone clapped. They walked out of the church, into the sunlight, into their future, into their life. They were happy, so happy. They had a small apartment, 2 rooms. It was enough. Carl worked as an engineer at the railway. Good work, steady work. Margarethe worked as a seamstress. They saved money. They bought the house, number 17 Pragerstrasse, their dream house. They painted it, furnished it, made it home. Anna was born in 1939, Thomas in 1941. Perfect children, beautiful children. Life was good. Life was full. Then the war came. Carl was drafted in 1941. He did not want to go. But he had no choice. He left in November for the Eastern Front, for Russia, for Stalingrad. He wrote letters every week, telling her he loved her, telling her he missed her, telling her he would come home. She believed him. She had to. But the letters stopped in December 1942. Then the official letter came. Carl was dead. Her husband, her love, her future, gone. She mourned. But she had to keep going. For Anna, for Thomas, for herself. She worked. She survived. She wore the rings, his and hers, together, on a chain, against her heart. A reminder, a connection, a hope, maybe not hope, just a refusal to let go. Now, lying on the cold floor of the ruined church, Margarethe reached up. She touched the chain, the rings, still there, cold, heavy. She pulled them out, held them in her palm. They caught the starlight, glinted, gold against the darkness. She stared at them, these 2 small circles, these symbols of love, of promise, of a life that was. She thought about everything she lost, the house, the city, her past. But she still had these. She still had Carl, in a way, in these rings, in these memories. But they were so heavy, so painful. Every time she touched them, she felt the loss, felt the absence, felt the hole where Carl used to be. Maybe it was time to let go, time to release, time to bury the past, so she could survive the present, so she could face the future, whatever that was. She did not know, but she knew she could not carry this weight anymore. Not and survive. Not and be the mother Anna and Thomas needed. She closed her fist around the rings. She would go back tomorrow, to the ruins, to number 17, to the place where her house stood. She would bury them there. Let them rest. Let Carl rest. Let herself rest. In the morning, Margarethe woke to gray light filtering through the broken roof. Anna and Thomas still slept. She moved carefully, Quietly, she found Frau Becker, an older woman, kind, a survivor. Margarete asked her to watch the children, just for an hour. Frau Becker agreed. She said, "Of course, my dear. Take your time." Margarete kissed Anna's forehead, kissed Thomas's cheek. Then she left. She walked through the ruins. The streets were filling with people, survivors, searching for loved ones, for belongings, for anything. Margarete walked to where her house used to be, number 17 Pragerstrasse, or what used to be Pragerstrasse. Now it was just rubble, a wasteland. She stood at the edge, looking, trying to orient herself, trying to remember. The front door was here, the hallway there, the kitchen in the back. Yes, the kitchen. She walked carefully, climbing over stones, over bricks, over pieces of her life. A broken plate, a twisted fork, a charred book. She reached the center, where the kitchen was, or where she thought it was. Hard to tell. Everything looked the same, gray, black, broken. She knelt. The ground was cold, wet. She pulled off the chain, held the rings in her hand one last time, looked at them, memorized them, said goodbye to Carl, to herself, to the past. "I am sorry. I cannot carry you anymore. I have to let go. I have to survive. Forgive me." She dug with her hands. The ash was soft, easy to move. She made a small hole, 6 inches deep. She placed the rings inside, side by side, touching, connected, together, even in death, even in burial, even in letting go. She covered them, patted the ash down, smooth, flat, anonymous, no marker, no sign, just 2 rings, buried in the ruins, in the grave of a house, in the ashes of a city, in the remnants of a life. She stood. She did not look back. She walked away, back to the church, back to her children, back to survival. Asterisk, the weeks turned to months. Spring came, then summer. The city slowly cleared. Work crews came. Soviet soldiers, German prisoners, forced laborers. They moved the rubble, cleared the streets, buried the dead. Thousands of bodies, in mass graves, in pits, anonymous, forgotten. The survivors adjusted, found shelter, found work, found routine. Margarete and her children lived in the church for 3 months. Then they were assigned a room, in a building that was half destroyed, but it had 4 walls, a roof, a door. It was something. Margarete found work, in a factory, making uniforms for the Soviet army. The pay was almost nothing, but it was something. Anna and Thomas started school, in a bombed-out building with no windows, no heat, no supplies. But it was school. It was structure. It was normal. Life went on, somehow, impossibly, painfully, but it went on. Margarete thought about the rings every day, about Carl, about the burial. Sometimes she regretted it. Sometimes she wanted to dig them up, to hold them again, to feel connected. But she never did. She let them stay buried. She moved forward, or tried to. Years passed. 1946, 1947, 1948. The city rebuilt, slowly, block by block, street by street. New buildings rose from the rubble, plain, concrete, Soviet style, ugly but functional. The population grew. People returned. Refugees settled. Life normalized. Margarethe remarried in 1950. A man named Ernst, a widower. His wife died in the bombings. He was practical, steady. He provided. Margarethe did not love him. Not like Carl, but she needed him. And he needed her. It was partnership. Not passion, function, not feeling. But it worked. They had a life, a routine, a future. Ernst adopted Anna and Thomas, gave them his name. They accepted him, not as a father, but as something. Ernst never asked about Carl, about the past. He understood. Some things are too painful to discuss. In 1960, 15 years after the bombing, the city announced a memorial. On the site of the old Altstadt, where the firestorm burned hottest, where the most died, they would clear the remaining rubble, excavate the ground, build something beautiful, something meaningful, a reminder, a testament, a refusal to forget. Margarethe heard the news. She felt something stir, a pull, a need, to go back, to see number 17 one last time, before it was gone forever, before it became part of a memorial, before the past was paved over. Literally, she went on a Saturday in October, alone. Ernst was working. Anna and Thomas were busy. Their own lives now, their own families. It was better this way, alone, just her and the memories. She walked to the site. It was massive, open, cleared, just dirt. Exposed earth. Workers with machines, excavators, bulldozers, moving earth, building foundations, preparing. Margarethe stood at the edge, looking, trying to remember, trying to place herself. Where was her house? Where was the kitchen? Where did she bury the rings? 15 years ago. 15 years. A lifetime. She was 34 then. Now she was 49. Her hair completely gray. Her face lined. Her body tired. Anna was 21, married, pregnant. Thomas was 19, in university, studying engineering. Like his father, like Carl, life moved on, even when you did not want it to. Margarethe walked into the site, past the signs, past the barriers. No one stopped her. No one cared. Just another old woman. Another survivor. Another ghost. She walked to where she thought her house was. Southwest corner, near the oak tree. Except there was no oak tree. It burned 15 years ago. Just a memory. She stood in the dirt, looking down, trying to feel something, trying to remember. Then she saw it. A glint. Something shining in the dirt, reflecting the October sun. She knelt, her knees protesting. She brushed the dirt away, and there it was. A ring, gold, tarnished, but unmistakable. She picked it up, her hand shaking. She turned it. Read the inscription. Margarethe and Carl, 12 June 1932. Carl's ring. She could not breathe, could not think. After 15 years, after the rain, after the snow, after the machines, after everything, still here, still whole, still gleaming. She dug more, frantic now, her fingers scraping, her nails breaking. And there, the second ring, her ring, also gold, also tarnished, also glowing in the light. She held them both, one in each hand, staring, not believing. How were they here? How did she find them? After 15 years, after the rubble was cleared, after the site was excavated, how it was impossible. But here they were, real, solid, heavy in her hands. Margarethe sat in the dirt. She clutched the rings to her chest. She wept, not from sadness, not from grief, from something else, something she could not name. Relief, maybe, or recognition, or redemption. She did not know. She just wept. Great heaving sobs. 15 years of holding it in. 15 years of surviving. 15 years of moving forward. All of it pouring out. In that moment. In that dirt. In that impossible discovery. She did not know how long she sat there. Minutes. Hours. Time lost meaning. Finally she stood. Her knees stiff. Her hands filthy. The rings still clutched tight. She walked home. Through the rebuilt city. Through streets that looked nothing like they used to. Through a world that had moved on. But carrying something that had not moved on. Something that refused to be forgotten. Something that waited. 15 years. In the dirt. In the dark. In the ruins. Waiting to be found. She reached her apartment. Ernst was home. He looked up when she entered. Saw her face. Saw the dirt. Saw the tears. He said what happened. "Are you all right?" Margarethe opened her hands. Showed him the rings. Ernst's eyes widened. He said, "Where did you get those?" Margarethe told him. About the bombing. About the burial. About the memorial site. About the impossible discovery. Ernst listened. He did not interrupt. When she finished, he said, "What will you do with them?" Margarethe said, "I do not know. Should I keep them?" Ernst said, "They are yours. They always were. Karl was your first husband. Your first love. I am your second. That does not erase him. That does not replace him. Keep them. Honor him. It is okay." Margarethe looked at him. Really looked at him. She had underestimated Ernst, thought of him as practical, functional. But he was more. He was kind, understanding, generous. She said, "Thank you." Ernst said, "For what?" Margarethe said, "For understanding." Ernst nodded. He said, "I lost my first wife too. I know what it is to carry that. To never let it go. Even when you move forward. Even when you remarry. It is always there. That loss. That love." Margarethe said yes. Always. She cleaned the rings. Polished them. They shone. Bright. New. As if 15 years had not passed. As if the fire had not touched them. As if nothing had happened. She put them back on the chain. Around her neck. Where they belonged. Where they always belonged. That night Margarethe dreamed. For the first time in years, she dreamed of Karl. Not a nightmare. Not a memory of loss. Something else. Something peaceful. Karl stood in a field. Green, bright, flowers everywhere. The sun shining. He wore his wedding suit. The same one from June 12, 1932. He looked young. Healthy. Happy. He smiled. That smile. The one she fell in love with. He said, "You found them." Margarethe said, "Yes. I found them." "But how? How are they still here?" Karl said, "Some things do not die. Some things survive. No matter what. Love is like that." Margarethe said, "Is this real? Are you real?" Karl said, "Does it matter?" Margarethe thought. Then said, "No. It does not matter." Karl said, "I told you. Forever. Remember." Margarethe said, "Forever." Karl said, "I have to go now." Margarethe said, "No. Stay, please." Karl said, "I cannot. But I am always with you. In the rings. In the memories. In Anna's laugh. In Thomas's eyes. In every sunrise. In every breath. I am there, forever. Margarethe said, I love you. Carl said, I love you too. Always. Then he was gone. Faded. Like mist. Like smoke. Like memory. Margarethe woke. Her face wet with tears. But she was not sad. She was at peace. For the first time since the letter. Since Stalingrad. Since the bombing. She was at peace. She touched the rings. Felt their weight. Their warmth. And she knew. Carl was right. Some things survive. Some things endure. Love is like that. Forever. The years passed. The memorial was finished. A beautiful structure. Stone and glass. Names engraved. Thousands of names. Margarethe visited often. She brought flowers. She stood in silence. She thought about Carl, about the rings, about forever. Anna had children. 3 of them. Thomas married. Had children too. Margarethe became a grandmother. Life continued. Ernst died in 1975. A heart attack. Sudden. He was 63. Margarethe mourned him. Buried him with respect. With gratitude. With affection. But not with the rings. The rings were Carl's. Only Carl's. She wore them until she died. In 1989, she was 78 years old. She died in her sleep, peaceful, quiet. Anna and Thomas were with her, holding her hands. They found the rings on the chain, around her neck. They read the inscription, Margarethe on Carl, 12 June 1932. Anna said, what should we do with them? Thomas said we bury them with her, so she can take them back to him, wherever they are. They placed the rings in Margarethe's hands, folded her fingers around them. They buried her in the city cemetery. The funeral was small, family, friends, a priest. The rings went with her, into the earth, into eternity, into forever. On her headstone they wrote, Margarethe Fischer, 1911 to 1989, wife, mother, grandmother, survivor, loved forever. And in Dresden, in the memorial, in the place where the city burned, where Margarethe buried her rings and found them glowing years later, visitors still come. They read the names. They remember the dead. They think about love, about loss, about survival, about the things we bury, and the things that refuse to stay buried, about miracles, about signs, about the refusal of love to die, even in fire, even in ash, even in ruins. Some things survive, some things endure, some things glow forever.